authority on that. I know that I'm a father and
Yep.
and I'm a father of two boys, and I know the kind of men that I want them to grow up to be and the kind of young men I want them to be, and I know the kind of models of masculinity that I want them to see.
Every generation has to answer the same question. What makes a man? For some, it's muscles. For others, it's money. Some believe it's dominance. Others believe it's emotion. But what if we've been asking the wrong question? Maybe masculinity isn't something you perform. Maybe it's something you become. Today, we're talking about a kind of strength the world rarely celebrates: quiet strength.
No, but seriously, Jon, like you talk about it, and I think you have you have a great it's a great vantage point you have, because you can talk about it from this place of having experienced, or having experience with toxic masculinity, or people thinking that about you because of, whatever difficulties you've had in the past, or the fighting or whatever. They can just think like, oh, this is the point of view this guy's going to be coming at me from. And then for you to talk about how that can be a toxic formula and is not the answer, gives you an authority in that. I think that other people, it gives you a power to talk about that subject that maybe other people don't have. You know
Look,
what I mean?
I don't know if I have any power in it, and honestly, with the sort of terms that people throw out there, I don't know. I'm no authority on that. I know that I'm a father, and
Yep.
and I'm a father of two boys, and I know the kind of men that I want them to grow up to be, and the kind of young men I want them to be, and I know the kind of models of masculinity that I want them to see.
The loudest man in the room often gets everyone's attention, but history rarely remembers the loudest men. It remembers the steady ones, the fathers who stayed, the husbands who sacrificed, the leaders who served, the warriors who fought only when they had to. In a recent conversation between actor Jon Bernthal and Conan O'Brien, Bernthal described the kind of men he's trying to raise. His sons learn discipline. They practice martial arts. They learn to protect themselves. But he also teaches them kindness, empathy, and compassion. That combination isn't weakness, it's maturity. The world often treats masculinity as though it's a choice between being hard or being soft. Healthy masculinity rejects both extremes. It teaches a man to become dangerous enough to protect others and gentle enough that people feel safe around him.
And I think, sometimes I've talked about this before, and I think sometimes it gets confusing, and I think that I don't know that I've ever been. I do believe in discipline. I'm somebody. My kids, they practice martial arts. They know, they know how to handle themselves in the woods. I really think it's enormously important, not for them, but also just as equally important for my daughter to be able to defend themselves and to be able to handle themselves, and to these things are these sort of cornerstones of, I think, classic masculinity are super, super important, but equally important is being kind, is being empathetic, is to stand up for somebody who has less rights than you, somebody who's being picked on, somebody who's being put into the corner, somebody who's just sad. Getting in touch with a side of them that's softer, having the courage to do that. I had a guy on my show that I've just learned so much from, a dear friend of mine named Kevin Vance, who's a Navy SEAL and a firefighter, and just one of the just this wonderful human being, and he talks about the code of the samurai and how they knew how to fight and they knew how to use swords and they were warriors, but they also had to get in touch with their quote unquote feminine side and their ability to do calligraphy and to dance and to cook and to garden, and that these things are all equally important and to be well-rounded.
The story. Imagine walking into a boxing gym. Immediately, your eyes are drawn to one man. He's loud, talking constantly, showing off, walking around like he owns the place. Every movement seems designed to announce his presence. Across the room is another fighter. He's wrapping his hands quietly, helping a younger boxer tighten his gloves. He smiles, he nods, he says very little. Training begins. The loud fighter burns energy trying to impress everyone. The quiet fighter saves his energy for the work. When it's time to spar, the room discovers who has been performing and who has been preparing. Life works much the same way. Many men spend years performing strength instead of developing it. Real strength doesn't need an audience. The lesson. One of the greatest misconceptions about masculinity is that confidence is loud. Real confidence is usually quiet, because confidence doesn't need witnesses. Insecure men seek attention. Secure men seek growth. The loudest man often wants everyone to believe he's powerful. The strongest man already knows who he is. That's why he listens more than he speaks. He doesn't chase respect, he earns it. The ancient samurai understood this principle. Yes, they trained for war, but they also practiced poetry, calligraphy, gardening, music. Not because these things made them less masculine, but because they made them more complete. A man's strength should never outgrow his character.
Again, when it's confused with being hardened or being picking on somebody or again saying it's my way or the highway, to me that reeks of such fear and such insecurity.
Yep.
And it's a classic rule in the boxing gym. I've said it before. When you come into Steve Petromali's gym, you're going to see.
Oh, I'm coming in.
I know you are.
And I'm coming in hard.
I know, man. Well, look, my point is that in any boxing gym in this country, you can see it. The guy who's the loudest, the guy with the brightest color clothes, the guy who's kind of, dancing around.
That's me. That's all three.
Well, look, I think that will change because I think that is almost always the guy you don't need to worry about. But it is the guy who smiles at you and shakes your hand and nods and says, "Hey, man, you want to move a little bit?" Like, you got to deal with this guy.
I'm coming in.
The psychology. Psychologists often distinguish between fragile self-esteem and secure self-esteem. Fragile confidence depends on comparison. It constantly asks, "Am I better than him?" Secure confidence asks a different question. Am I becoming better than I was yesterday? This explains why insecure men often become controlling, aggressive, or boastful. When identity depends upon appearing strong, every disagreement feels like a threat. Every criticism feels like an attack. Every challenge becomes personal. But when identity is rooted in character, strength becomes calm. Calm becomes confidence. Confidence becomes leadership. Practical steps. This week, train your quiet strength. 1. Practice restraint. When you feel the urge to prove yourself, choose excellence instead. 2. Listen first. In every conversation, spend more time understanding than impressing. 3. Build private discipline. Develop habits that nobody applauds: reading, training, prayer, journaling, learning. 4. Protect someone. Use your influence, your words, or your strength to defend someone who cannot defend themselves. 5. Develop another side of yourself. Learn something creative. Cook, garden, write, play music. Strong men build complete lives. Ask yourself, where am I performing instead of growing? Do I want people to think I'm strong? Or am I actually becoming strong? Does my presence bring peace or pressure? When was the last time I admitted I was wrong? Am I training only my body or also my mind, heart, and character? Masculinity has never been about intimidation. It has always been about responsibility. Real men don't need to announce their strength. Their families feel it. Their friends trust it. Their communities benefit from it. A man's greatest weapon is not his fists, it is his character. Because the strongest man in the room is usually the one who doesn't need everyone to know it. This week, stop trying to look strong. Start becoming the kind of man whose discipline speaks louder than his words. Because when strength is rooted in humility, guided by compassion, and restrained by wisdom, it no longer needs applause. It simply changes the lives of everyone around it. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Peace.